Hello, trading has closed on the 30th of April 2025. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls and then make our predictions. It's my trading plan for May the 1st, 2025. Remember, I can change my plan. My plan can be completely wrong, and all trades you make should be made at your own risk. I have personal business tomorrow morning, an exciting visit to the dentist, and I'm not certain I'm going to make any trades. We had a few calls. We looked for the pattern today with the early high, that's this. Tomorrow should have the early low. We said the commonest thing was a gap and a prompt move outside the day's range. Here's what we said. Gap, prompt move outside the day's range. That certainly happened. We had one bullish indicator, but we said gapping and promptly undercutting the low of day would kill the pattern. Well, that's what happened, and everything else was negative, and we certainly got a collapse and hit a lot of our targets. And we have to figure out how to interpret the rebound on a day Woodson called for a top. Well, first of all, let's look at today's pattern. MEJT says this rally, even though it's strong, is false. Says we're going to trade 54.8950, most likely by tomorrow's close. And unless we gap up smartly, which is always possible, unless we gap up smartly, that's my call. We had a target 55.2704. That one printed and there was resistance at that price. We had a target that printed a day late, 54.7827. And that printed and there was support at that price. So those all worked out. And now we have a target 54.8950 way down here. And unless we gap up smartly, which is always possible, futures were way higher as I'm recording this. Unless we gap up smartly, that's my call for tomorrow, even though it's 80 handles lower and 120 handles lower if you count futures. Just remember, if there's a gap up at the open, the price is still a target, but not the time. We gapped down, had this huge rally, overtook these highs, but the close couldn't overtake the highs. So for now at least, it hasn't done enough to invalidate the significance of this break. You still have to confirm this break by trading lower. The ideal situation would be if you gapped and promptly took out this low. We were rallying all day, stopped right at our resistance level. With under half an hour left to trade, had a huge rally. As I've said, the wall into the close is a sign of panic. Institutions aren't going to wait for the market close to buy with abandon. If they're going to buy, they're going to buy when the market's dropping. If they're going to buy, they're going to buy here. They can't afford to pay any price when no one's there to take the other side of the trade. Now, again, if we keep going up, that's the wrong interpretation. It can always be wrong. Sometimes the people have a right to panic. You don't know. But this is the day where Woodson called for a top, and there are way too many calls being purchased in relation to puts. And the people who buy options, and when they reach an extreme like that, they're almost always wrong. So there's a good chance this is a false move, and if it isn't, you'll know by the open and don't have to risk any money. We've been saying prices had to retrace to this blue line. Hit it on the nose. Now this was the wave count we had. The big problem I have with it is if this is over here, and that we don't know, of course, we should start to wave black C down, which, if it's equal to black A, will undercut black A, and this black A, whatever this low was, that had all the hallmarks of a low, which should stick forever. There also isn't a good fib relationship between C of A and A. Doesn't have to be, but there usually is. So I would like some other count where this low would hold, and I was able to come up with one. Doesn't make that count wrong. This is a count saying we made a symmetrical triangle. This would be A. You have your ABC. Now again, I mean, a triangle should be A, B, C, D, E, but it's the shape of a triangle. I mean, you can count this you can count this A, B, C, D, E. I just can't list everything. On the next chart, I do it that way. A, B, C, D, E. And if that's what this is, the first breakout tends to be a false move. And if this is A, B, C, D, E, this is the middle swing. And the target tends to be a Fibonacci relative of the middle swing. So if we stop here, and if we undercut this, everything plays out for this being A, that's B, and that's C. And if C is equal to A, you're not going to undercut this. And that's what I'd like to see happen, but if we don't undercut this fast, I'm going to have to get my erasers out and do something else. I can still count this as an ABC, and the action since then can be counted in any number of different ways. You can count this as A, B. I mean, they're all different kinds of counts, but they all work for me as long as this high holds. And that we don't know. Again, futures are way up here. I could just have to get rid of the whole thing. But don't forget, even though this target looks pretty far away, so did this one and that one printed. Well, Thursday's pattern has the really low regardless of where we open. So lower MEJT target unless we gap up smartly. The rules call for it to print. There's a wall into the close. After the wall, futures have traded as much as 50 additional handles higher. Despite the magnitude of the rally, the timing of the advance makes it suspect. We're vulnerable to gapping down smartly at the open and promptly undercutting the low of the advance, followed by hitting our target. So if that happens, the wave count and the put-call ratio argue for substantially lower prices ahead before the rally resumes. And if that doesn't happen, I really don't have a good plan. And remember, I'm at the dentist tomorrow morning. I'm not certain I'm going to do anything with my own money. So we have a great plan. If this high holds and we undercut this, and as strange as it seems, so far away, I'm going to go with it as a possible occurrence. But if it doesn't happen, then something else is going on, and even if I weren't going to the dentist, I wouldn't really have a good plan, to be honest. And that's today's call.